Chainsaw Confidential by Gunnar Hansen. The actor who plays Leatherface in the 1974 horror classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre narrates what it was like to be a part of the filming experience of the now infamous movie. I had never seen it before, and the only memory that I have of it was my first roommate in college. This was his favorite movie. He was a strange one. He had to go to the hospital once because he accidentally lit himself on fire. I say accidentally, but he was the one who poured the gasoline and lit the match. So, I didn't know much about what this movie was. Some over-the-top blood and guts nonsense movie that held no interest for me. But I got this one just because I like the behind-the-scenes sort of look at movies. I love reading this book for a couple reasons. One, because the making of it was just so bizarre. You have these people that aren't really professional actors, they're just friends of friends, and they're getting together and kind of cobbling this movie, and all driving down to Texas in the middle of the summer, and everything is really hot. They ran into a lot of technical difficulties on set. The guy who played Leatherface couldn't see very well at all. He couldn't run fast. Well, he has a chainsaw going and he has to be like waving it around at these scantily clad women. And he points out in the book that they took a lot of stupid risks. At one point, one of the actors was on the table and supposed to be dead, and Leatherface was supposed to be cutting into him with the chainsaw. But to get the shot, he just had to take the chainsaw really close to the person's head. And the guy who was playing Leatherface was just trying to keep it steady, even though he had this mask on and he couldn't see really well. He easily could have killed him, and the author just talks about that as one of the many stupid risks that they took just because they needed to get the shot. Also, you have some of the actors who aren't very pleasant to work with. The guy who plays Leatherface eventually in the movie kills the guy on the wheelchair. The actor who played the guy in the wheelchair was so annoying that he was happy to like just lay into him with the chainsaw because it meant that he would finally be off the set. All of this was fed by a large amount of marijuana that was readily available. So you had people doing really dangerous stunts, jumping out the window, getting hurt, and like, it's a miracle that no one actually was seriously hurt. He said that at one point, everyone was getting together to do this scene, but there were only two of them that weren't seriously high, and so nothing was happening. What do you do? And the second reason that I thought this book was really interesting was the after effects. You go through this crazy experience of making a movie with all this, the amateur actors, low budget, everything, and then suddenly it becomes this huge hit, making millions of dollars. They're getting calls about it. There's people looking into the real story, even though there is no real story of the Texas Chainsaw victims or family. Gunnar Hansen, the Leatherface guy, he's just listening to all this, and of course he's getting all of the barrage of complaints against him that he's what's wrong with society. Also, it turns out that there was a big scam from the actor's perspective. In the end, the film ended up making millions of dollars, but the actors didn't really get paid. They got barely anything. He said that he was trying to figure out what was going on, and he was talking to someone, and that someone said like, well, if they don't want you to get paid, then you're not going to get paid. It's just there's really weird situations like that all behind the scenes. So I read the book and I thought it was really fun to read. Then I decided to watch the movie to put context to all the stories that he told. I was seriously underwhelmed. It is not a scary movie. I actually thought it was pretty silly the whole way through. There's a sense that I just read the making of it, so of course I'm just going to see the author in the costume chasing after the girl, but I didn't see any of that. I thought Leatherface chasing the girl through the woods at night with a chainsaw was actually pretty mechanical. And I like scary movies, but this was pretty dull, which is surprising given the subject matter. I think, to be fair, Texas Chainsaw was doing something new that hadn't been done up to that point. So there's a certain something in the novelty that I really can't appreciate watching it in 2022 versus 1974. Having watched part of the movie, part of the book that strikes me as weird now is how much he analyzed it as if he were like an English professor talking about what he thought were Leatherface's motivations and the symbolisms and metaphors. You would think that you're reading some like literature classic, which is just oddly placed. He does bring up interesting points about the role of horror movies and their effect on society. He doesn't think that it pulls society down. His opinion is it helps us deal with our fears by seeing it in a horror movie context. I mostly agree with that, but on the other hand, there was a scene in the movie where this chainsaw family is all around this girl and they're like torturing her. He said that it was an insane 26 hours of just being caught up in this room. It was the only time that he actually got so caught up in the character he felt like he was Leatherface, which was chilling to hear. I think it's weird for him to claim the innocence of a movie when he can at the same time admit that it was taking over a part of his mind, at least in that one scene. Overall, the movie, I would give it 2 stars. The book, though, is an easy 3.5 stars. So I'm open for recommendations for different kinds of books that I haven't gotten to yet. So if you can think of any genre that I might be missing, feel free to leave them in the comments below.